Revenge films.
My name is Michelle. I live together with my husband, Jonathan, and our 3-year-old son, Henry. I'm a 27-year-old housewife with a family of 3. When I got married to my gentle husband, I thought that we would be able to build a warm household together, but unfortunately, there was one big problem between my husband and I, and that problem was related to my husband's childhood friend named Karen. I first met Jonathan because we went to the same college. We became friends, and the closer we became, we started to date. Ever since we first started dating, Jonathan always had a lot of friends, and he often brought me with him whenever he had gatherings with his friends. That was when I first met Karen. To be honest, from the first time that I met her, I didn't think very highly of her. Even though she knew that I was Jonathan's girlfriend, right in front of my eyes, she would be all over Jonathan. And then she would say things like, "You see, Jonathan and I used to be in love with each other." She kept making these jokes that were not funny at all, and to be honest, it was irritating. And every single time that would happen, my husband would seem unbothered, and he would just say,
"Oh, come on, don't be all over me like that in front of my girlfriend,"
and brush it off. Even though I was seriously bothered by it, anytime I would try to talk to him about it, he would just say,
"It's just a joke, don't worry about it."
But as we got older and we got married, I figured that surely she wouldn't be doing things like that at this point, but after we got married, it was the opposite. Karen's little jokes like this only started to escalate. She started to say that she was playing pretend affair and started flirting with my husband right in front of my eyes. Even after we got married, there were a lot of times that I would go with my husband to gatherings with his friends, and Karen would be there. Every single time I would leave with a bad taste in my mouth. So I made a decision, and I tried telling my husband that I didn't want to go anywhere. But then my husband said,
"Oh, don't be like that, Michelle. Karen says that she likes you, and she insisted that I definitely have to bring you with me."
But then I became furious, and I said, "Well, in that case, make her stop that thing she does where she plays pretend affair." Like this, he said,
All right.
But I could tell that he wasn't thinking too seriously about it. That was when I decided that no matter how much my husband asked me to come, I wasn't going to go with him to his gatherings with his friends anymore. From there, we had a peaceful life together, and soon after that, we discovered that I was pregnant. After my beautiful son was born, I thought it was a given that we would be able to live happily as a new family of 3. However, when my husband informed all of his friends that he was now a father, Karen started coming over more frequently to hang out at our house. Even though she would say that she wanted to come over to see the baby, she didn't even look at our son. Instead, she would return to Jonathan and say, "I missed you so much." And she would hug Jonathan and stay stuck to him. And then from there, she would do that thing where she plays pretend affair right in front of me. She would say, "Let's take a photo." And then she would press her chest against my husband's arm, put her cheek next to his, and snap the photo. "Oh my gosh, we look like we're totally in love. I'm gonna post this on my social media." She would put on this grand act right in front of me, and now currently, with my son turning 3 years old, Karen's actions had only escalated. She took my husband's phone and got my phone number out of it, and then she started sending me photos of the two of them going to hotels together. When my husband came home and I confronted him about it, he replied,
"After all the friends got together, we just happened to pass by the front of a hotel. And then Karen was just being a brat, and she started saying we should take a photo in front of the hotel as a joke."
And then he laughed. "This isn't funny. It's not a joke." I was furious, but he nonchalantly replied,
"Oh, come on. It's just a joke. You don't need to worry about it. You get jealous so easily, Michelle."
And all he would do was laugh. I was starting to feel like I was reaching the limit of my patience with my husband. And right around that time, the incident occurred that would seal the nail into the coffin. It was the weekend, and my husband had the day off of work. The 3 of us were relaxing at home, and suddenly the front doorbell rang. When I went to answer the door, standing there was Karen. "I happened to be nearby, so I decided to stop by. My sweet darling, I missed you." And right in front of our son, she hugged my husband and squeezed him tight. And then she stormed into the living room and said out loud, "The hotel we went to the other day was so good, wasn't it?" And then she looked over at me, and I saw a smirk out of the corner of her mouth. And then my husband said,
"Oh, come on. We just passed by, that was all."
And he laughed along with her. I was doing my best to ignore them, but then, to my disbelief, Karen went and kissed my husband on the cheek. My husband saw that and he exclaimed,
"Oh, they're kissing! They're kissing!"
And then Karen turned to my son and said, "That's because your daddy is much more in love with me than your mommy." The moment she said that, I felt something snap inside of me. I had had enough. I didn't want my son to see his father like that anymore, and with that thought in my mind, I decided to have a conversation with my husband that night. After I put our son to sleep, I said to him directly that I didn't want Karen coming into our house anymore. But then, when I started the conversation, Jonathan muttered under his breath, "Not again," and let out a sigh. Kissing you in front of your own wife, there is a limit to how rude someone can be, and it's a bad influence on Henry too, so promise me right now that you are not going to invite her over anymore. But when I said that, Jonathan snapped back at me.
My friends are important to me, and Karen is my friend, so I'm going to see her whenever I want to.
I was shocked by his response, and deep down, I felt like I couldn't remain a wife to somebody like this. And that was when I decided I wanted to get a divorce. And from there, I pretended like everything was normal, but I decided to sneak photos and videos of Karen and my husband playing pretend with their affair that was supposed to be a joke. Everything that Karen said and did was more than enough to be counted as evidence of an affair, but perhaps Jonathan mistook my disinterest as me giving up, and before I knew it, I felt like he was fully enjoying playing pretend affair with Karen. Thanks to that, he was also kissing her on the cheek, and they were flirting in the bathroom. They were doing whatever they wanted, and I was able to get photos of all of it. 1 month later, on the weekend, "Hey, Jonathan, can you invite Karen over?" When I said that,
Wow, that's rare for you to say something like that.
and he immediately picked up the phone and called her. She came running over, and as usual, the first thing she said was, "Darling, I missed you." At that moment, in a loud, stern voice, I said, "Both of you, sit down." They both jumped a little bit and turned their heads towards me. I pulled out the divorce papers that I had already signed out of the drawer, and I placed it on top of the table. My husband saw that, and his eyes widened as he froze. The reason for this divorce is, of course, because you are having an affair. And that's why I'm going to collect a full settlement fee, of course, from you too, Karen. When I said that, Jonathan exclaimed,
Affair? Even though it was just a joke? Are you serious? Are you serious that you want to get a divorce over something that little?
When he said that, I told him that I had already hired a lawyer and sent the letter of notice to both Karen's family as well as my husband's family. As I said that, Jonathan exclaimed,
Are you kidding? What have you done?
And then Karen said, "But I haven't done anything wrong." And she was furious. But that was when I showed them all the photos and videos and recordings that I had collected. I sent a copy of exactly this to both of your parents, so I'm sure you won't be able to make up any excuse. When they looked at the photos of them in front of the hotel, or the two of them flirting on the bed, they both went silent and looked down. Right at that moment, the doorbell rang, and in a panicked state, my in-laws came into the house, and as soon as my father-in-law saw my husband and Karen, he yelled,
You garbage!
My mother-in-law was crying as she turned to me and said, "Michelle, I'm truly so sorry. We're going to be disowning our son, so please, will you still let us see our grandson?" And she squeezed both of my hands. Jonathan turned to his parents and said,
Guys, this was just a joke. Karen and I have this thing where we play pretend affair. It was just a joke.
When he tried to make that excuse, his father yelled,
You lost your family because of such a pathetic joke. You're a huge idiot.
My father-in-law continued his lecture for a while, and eventually Jonathan and Karen turned to me and got down on their knees and apologized to me. But of course, the only thing I said was, "I'm not forgiving you." From there, I asked my in-laws to drive me to my parents' house, and I explained the situation to my parents. My in-laws got down on their knees at the front door to apologize to my family. That day, in the evening, my husband also came to my family house to try to apologize, but my father kicked him out at the front door, and Jonathan went crying home. After that, I got a divorce and collected a settlement fee from the both of them. I received a deposit of $40,000 in total. I also made my ex-husband promise to pay child support fees every month, so for a while, I'm thinking about relaxing at my parents' home. As for Karen, when her parents saw the photos of the affair, they were furious, and I heard she was disowned. It also became a rumor amongst the friends that my husband and I got divorced because of Karen, and nobody wanted anything to do with her anymore. As a result of that, she tried to seduce my ex-husband and asked him to marry her, but Jonathan was furious.
This is all your fault! Because of you, I lost my family!
After losing everything, apparently my ex-husband was resentful towards Karen, and at the end of a huge fight, the two of them fell apart. As for my ex-husband, after the divorce, he started sending me extremely long letters every month. It seems like he didn't think I was actually going to divorce him, and the devastation of suddenly losing his family made him lose all of his hair, as well as his appetite, and he lost over 10 kilograms. But I brushed off that ex-husband, and I simply replied that I never want to see his face ever again. He's gotten thin and looks old now, so I'm sure he's never going to be able to get remarried again for the rest of his life. After I moved back into my family home, I'm living happily with my parents and my son. With my parents' help, I've also started looking for a job. And I am motivated to work hard and raise my son proudly. I'm still young, so I want to make this next chapter of my life full of happiness.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.